Hello and welcome to The Villain Was Right, the podcast where we look at movies and TV shows from the villain's perspective and dare to ask, were they really all that bad? I'm your host, Craig Fay.
And I'm your host, Rebecca Reeds.
And this week on the podcast, we are covering The Usual Suspects with very special guests. He's from the Canadian satirical news site, The Beaverton, and host of the Beaverton's newly relaunched podcast. It's Luke Gordon-Field. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much for having me. Thrilled to be here.
I said thank you for having us.
Oh, did I? I just launched into politeness right away. I had no idea.
I was like, that's fine. We're keeping
Thank you for having us.
We made our mistakes here.
Well, now that I record here too, I kind of feel like this is my space. So you guys are welcome in it.
Oh, God.
I'm at the head of the table. I own it.
That's true. Yeah, you've got
Good
the Star
Lord.
Wars in the background. Yeah, there we go. Anyway, welcome.
Welcome. Can I ask you a Beaverton question before we get into anything else?
Sure. I didn't come up with a name. I know it's dumb.
Oh, no, I have no problem with the name. I like it.
Okay, good.
My question is it getting tougher for you guys as the news goes on?
Well, I will say,
Or easier because it's writing itself?
Yeah, well, there was a moment about a few weeks ago when it was like, there's a big hockey tournament that Donald Trump is talking about, and it's tying into this whole U.S. taking over Canada thing. And it was like the satirical gods just being like, here, website, have some traffic.
Yeah.
In that sense, it got easier. That was a moment in time, but in that sense, it got easier. Trump is the ultimate demarcator between what you think people want to hear about and what people actually want to hear about. Because when he's first in power, and we experienced this the first go around, you could write a million Trump stories and they would get gobbled up. They'd all get tons of views, tons of traffic, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's a switch that flips where people are just like, I never want to hear about this man again.
Yeah.
So right now we're in the honeymoon period, and in about 3 months, I'll probably be like, please let there be a single scrap of news that does not involve Donald Trump.
Hey, yeah, that's very valid. Super fun. I think I'm already out of honeymoon phase myself.
Oh, yeah.
I'm already like, yep, that's been enough of that. Somebody put this man down. Anyway,
That'd be great for us. Donald Trump gets assassinated, we're going to easily 2 or 3 stories on that.
Hey, yeah, let's make it happen. Anyway.
We're in the vibe of the movie that we're talking about.
Yes.
So you provided us with a bunch of ones that you would want to come on and do for this.
Yes.
And this was the one that we could feasibly do because all the others were TV shows.
There was one TV show. The other 3 were movies.
Okay.
Can I say what the other ones were?
Of course.
So I pitched Better Call Saul, which, for sure.
Which
very
we
long,
would love to do, but not
very
in
long.
this short amount of time.
Yeah, we were on the East Coast.
Yeah. I was like, there's no fucking way.
I've only had some free time. But the other ones were Real Pain, which just came out, and Oppenheimer.
Oh, yeah.
Which I was like, I can defend Robert Downey Jr. and Oppenheimer. I can find a way on that.
But we saddled you with The Usual Suspects.
Oh, not saddled at all.
No, that was on the list. It was requested.
It was on the list. That's true. So, what is your history with The Usual Suspects? Like, was this a movie that you watched a lot growing up? Like, what?
I love this movie.
Oh,
this is easily in my top 10 all time. Easily. Probably top 5. Problematic fave, obviously. I'm aware of that. But no, I saw this movie when I was 13 or 14. Remember pre-internet everywhere where you just had friends who knew about cool shit?
Yeah.
And you don't know where they, he didn't have an older brother or whatever. My buddy Joel just knew about awesome movies. And so one night I was I think I was sleeping over at his place, and we did double bill of this and The Long Good Friday, which is an English gangster movie. And both of them are just 2 of the best movies I've ever seen. I love this movie so much. I have rewatched it. And, for a movie that obviously depends very much on a twist, which I'm sure we will talk a lot about.
Yes.
I love rewatching this movie, which is not the case usually with twist-focused movies.
Yeah, that's true.
And so I've seen this movie at least 10 to 15 times.
Wow. Yeah. I know that feeling that you're talking about. But for me, that was Memento, where we sat around in high school, discussing what had just happened and what, because there was, people forget there was a sort of a point in cinema where you weren't expecting twists.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Twists were not a new thing, but not very common. And then I think Sixth Sense came out, and this would have been around the same time, right?
A few years earlier, yeah. Sixth Sense is late 90s. This is early to mid, I think.
Yeah. And this, and Keyser Soze.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, for sure. But guys, if you have not seen The Usual Suspects, I will do my best to describe it to you right now. It's weirdly enough not as convoluted as I remember it being. But basically what happens is we start with this character, Verbal Kint, being played by Kevin Spacey, who is actively giving evidence to the police of some kind and relaying the events of a police lineup in New York, I think like 6 weeks earlier, where somebody had robbed a truck and there's all these usual suspects lined up at this police station saying, "Hand me the money, cocksucker," and that's sort of the impetus for these 5 criminals sort of to get together. And turns out one of them has a line on this other heist that they can do, and they go and they do it. They basically there's a corrupt police officer, and they're shuttling diamond thieves around, and they hijack that for the diamonds or whatever. And then they have to fly to LA to fence the diamonds. They all go. And while they're there, they also get hired by Kobayashi, who is like a lawyer for this like mysterious Keyser Soze, who's like renowned as this like terrible gangster villain guy. And they go and end up having to kill this other guy, and it doesn't work out well. And turns out they're all indebted to Keyser Soze in some way. And to get back to him, for them to pay off their debts, they have to go and basically steal the coke or blow up the coke on this ship, and they get to keep the money, and then them and Keyser Soze are fine. And it sort of happens, and we find out that like everybody has died on the ship. Keaton, who's like the old, he's the sort of the old corrupt cop who's trying to turn his life around or whatever, and that the cops really, really want to get. There's McManus, played by Stephen Baldwin, and Benicio del Toro. Oh, Benicio del Toro actually dies because he tries to not do the job, so they kill him. Kevin Pollak, all these guys, they all end up dead at the thing, and Kevin Spacey, Verbal Kint, is the only one to survive and the only one who saw Keyser Soze. And so he turns state evidence and he's testifying, and during this whole time there is they're talking in this police officer's like office, and they finally let him go out on bail because he's got immunity or whatever. And the cop who's been interrogating him turns around and he finds that all the details from the story that Kevin Spacey has been, Verbal Kint has been telling the whole time are all made up, and they're all on the bulletin board behind him. Like the name of the bulletin board is like Quattro from this, and that was like the barbershop quartet detail. All the details he's basically picked from these things. Nothing that he said is true. And turns out he's Keyser Soze, and as he walks away, he supposedly has cerebral palsy and his foot is clubbed, and as we see him walk away, his foot straightens out and he stops walking like that and gets in the car, and you never see him ever again. Greatest trick the devil ever played was convincing the world he didn't exist. And I think that's most of it. A lot of diamond thieving, a lot of people getting shot and dying. I think I hit everyone.
Or did
right?
they? We don't know.
We don't know. Yeah. So probably one of the greatest villains in movie history, really. Bit of a challenge. But who do you think is the villain of this movie?
The police. I'm full. This movie is obviously, it predates a lot of political stuff, but it's like back in the 90s when you could just make the cops the bad guys. No, but obviously the actual villain, the intended villain, is Keyser Soze, and his secondary antagonist would be the lawyer who is his like representative throughout the movie, Kobayashi. But obviously, yeah, Keyser Soze is the stated villain, the boogeyman, the Baba Yaga, the dark shadow behind the whole thing. Yeah, he's definitely the villain.
Totally. And I say, let the cockroaches fight each other. That's where I'm going to hang my hat today. Absolutely. I love watching bad men be bad men together. I'm like, yes. Why are we taking it out on outside people? Okay, keep it in-house. You know what I mean? Ooh, you were a security guard for a villain, for a bad man, for a diamond thief? Yeah, you got shot. What did you think was going to happen? I don't think that's that bad.
No,
I don't think it's that crazy.
There is, I mean, even if the fundamental trick of talking about this movie is that we know nothing of what happens in it. We know the only things that aren't told through Verbal's recounting, which we know is just complete gobbledygook he's making up as he goes, is the opening where Keaton gets killed by Keyser Soze, who we later know is Kevin Spacey's character, is Verbal Kint. And all the scenes in the police station, which are essentially just, Chaz Palminteri screaming at Kevin Spacey about what an idiot he is. So, like, even accepting that, let's assume some of the murders that they say Keyser Soze committed were real. He's Omar, right? He never puts his gun on anyone who isn't in the game. And so if you're going to make a defense of him, it is that he is the best at killing people who would also kill him at the drop of a hat.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, and I mean, the one of the inciting incidents is the jewel heist or whatever from the corrupt cops. Like, what do they call it? Like New York's best taxi service or something like that?
New York's finest, I guess, because that's a play on
New York's finest taxi service, Where these are corrupt cops who are basically driving criminals around as like cover and getting payoffs for it.
Because obviously it's a great way to not get pulled over by the cops in a cop car.
Perfect. So they know... So the thing is, he presents it as like Keaton is the guy with the hookup because he's the corrupt ex-cop or whatever and whatever. And but like we know that it was probably Verbal, right?
Maybe. I mean, like Chaz Palminteri's logic there as treasury agent, which I did not know was a thing, Dave Coulion, his logic is that like who would know about a corrupt cop scheme, a former corrupt cop? Which is pretty logical. I mean, Coulion is making a lot of wild leaps here, but I mean, throughout the movie, but not there. Like that does make sense. Was it probably to a certain degree Keyser Soze through Verbal, or like maybe like he knew Keaton would know about this, so he suggested it, and Keaton ran with it? Who knows? We truly don't know. The movie, what Verbal says during the movie is that it was Fenster and McManus, which is Stephen Baldwin and Benicio del Toro, which is probably BS. But again, that's the trick of talking about this movie. We don't know.
We don't know. But his pitch is like, if we do it my way, no one gets killed. And no one does get killed. They just hold them up, and so that's...
And light a cop car on fire.
They lit a cop car on fire, which...
Pretty badass.
Which does bring me to one thing that really bothers me about this movie, and I don't know why I picked up on this detail, but the liberty with which they are throwing around gasoline... You know what I mean?
They all go. It's one step away from the Zoolander scene where they're just
exactly. It's like I'm sorry, if you're standing on the cop car dousing it with fuel, you're gonna get some on you.
You don't want it on you.
You gotta stand back and splash. You know, you're pouring. The guy's pouring it all over his boots. That's how you know the story is bullshit.
That's the only clue.
That's the only clue.
Not the man with a Japanese name who speaks in an Indian accent and is clearly a white guy who put on some self-tanner.
I also love that they made him like a bad improviser because he had to pull everything from the room he was in. He's like, so I fell in love with Mr. Lamp. And just like, what do I see here?
Did you ever see the Family Guy version of that?
No.
It's like where he goes like, "What's your name?" and he goes, and he looks around and it's like he sees a P and he's like P, and then he sees someone crying, he's like tear. And then a griffin flies and he's like Griffin. Shit.
That's pretty good.
But you're right. It is. Yeah, it's like that guy. Like Keyser Soze could have taken a couple Second City classes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
A little more yes and, sir. You're just pulling shit from the room. And I felt so bad for that one lady who got the drive-by fat shaming. I was like, wow. It's just that one lady out of nowhere. I was like, oh, you didn't need to dog her like that. Can you imagine being that lady? Be like, listen, we got your photo in a movie. Like, Jesus Christ. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, and that's a detail that
I hope
wasn't
the
even
residuals played well.
never even mattered in the detail. Like he was just like, yeah, even the fact that what was it, fat as a whale is what he said
Orca
about
fat.
Orca
Orca
fat.
fat. It was like, well, you didn't even need to say that about the person you were lying about.
It just seems mean. This evil murderer is mean.
Yeah. One of the things that's interesting is like almost all the details he pulls that they then play in VO as he's walking out of the station are all completely irrelevant. It was just things he was saying when he was like obfuscating and not trying to tell Kuyan what he wanted to know, except for Kobayashi, of course, which he pulls,
Yes.
and Redwood, I think, which is like a name next to that woman who's not a great use of an extra there. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, that's fine. I just went, whoa.
Yeah, and like I almost was expecting because like Keaton is for sure involved in this. Like, because that's kind of their whole thing from the beginning was like, we think Keaton was responsible for this, and we think Keaton was maybe Keyser Soze.
Yeah.
Right. But the rest of them, like, you never really hear the cops follow up on. So I was like, maybe none of those guys existed either, except that we do know that they were in the police lineup, right? Is that another thing that we know is true?
Yeah, because if he had made that up, that would have been like you can't make up stuff that the cops could check in 5 seconds.
Yeah,
Right.
So if he
Yeah,
made
that's a
up
good
this whole
point.
police lineup in New York, and then like Kuyan makes one phone call, and actually Kuyan was the one who arrested Keaton for that lineup. So yeah, he would have known if that was complete BS.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that was Keyser Soze getting all those guys in a room together for his own purposes.
Yes.
So those guys existed, that happened. And then, yeah, because I sort of thought like, oh, the whole story is bullshit. Like all of their involvement in it. But I don't know, maybe it is. Maybe they don't get involved after the lineup.
Well, they do reveal, and this is there's so many little moments in this movie that I think make it a great rewatch, even once you know the big twist, which is like they do reveal, Kobayashi reveals that Hockney, which is Kevin Pollak's character, which, by the way, making Kevin Pollak a badass, interesting choice, and it actually worked.
I kind of love Kevin Pollak and everything he's ever been in. Yeah.
I watched Marvelous Mrs. Maisel recently, and and he's in that a lot. And it's like different strokes, but hey, it works.
Oh yeah, I forgot that is good. I was like, what has Kevin Pollak been up to lately?
Yeah.
It's like I forgot he's the
father
stepdad or whatever. Yeah.
So they reveal that he was the one who hijacked the truck. So the truck hijacking was real.
Right.
And here's the little detail I love. Remember when Agent Kuyan is talking about how one thing he learned on his first day as a cop is how to spot a guilty guy. Lock 4 guys up. The one who goes to sleep is the one who's guilty because he knows he's been caught, so he gets some sleep. Watch the scene where Gabriel Byrne comes in after the lineup and Kevin Pollak is sleeping.
Oh.
Yeah, there's little moments like that throughout the movie that
It's
make it a
very
great
well done.
rewatch.
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't have caught that.
Oh, I caught that on my 8th rewatch.
Yeah, okay,
like the
great,
first
great,
few
great.
times,
Okay.
never remotely caught
Brilliant.
that. Yeah,
Love that. Okay, I want to ask you guys a question.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just specifically about the lineup, because every time I watch one of these lineup scenes, I always go, what would actually be the chances of me being able to identify somebody's fucking voice?
Yeah.
I think borderline 0.
It's
Like,
just
even
an
if
excuse
it's-
for the cops to funnel someone towards a certain person.
Okay,
Because
yeah.
a lot of lineups, I mean, people's ability to recognize people, especially people who aren't their race, is atrocious. And so
But
much
also
of the
you're
time,
in a traumatic moment. Like I'm I don't think you can really trust your own man. I don't know if they ever did that for you guys in school where they would get you to watch a video and then right afterwards they'd be like, okay, so was that person left-handed or right-handed? And you were like, what the fuck was I supposed to grab? And
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
like, and that's why witnesses aren't necessarily
Well, the famous count how many times they pass the ball
I was about
thing.
to bring that up, yeah.
Yeah.
what's that thing?
So they showed us this in law school, but they say to you, count how many, there's a team of basketball players, but they're just
Okay.
practicing. Count how many times they pass the ball to each other and really focus on
Yeah.
it. And so you're taking the kind of place of the witness. And so so you're counting it. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's like, and at the end they passed it like, I don't know, 15 times. And so you're like, okay, I got it 15. And so you answer 15, and the instructor or whatever is like, good. Did you notice the gorilla walking through the whole thing? And there's a guy in a full gorilla suit just walking the whole time, and you never notice him.
Crazy.
Yeah. And it's true. You never do.
Yeah.
No, every time I see one of these things, I'm like 0% chance I would be able to identify somebody.
Yeah, so like a line, and I mean, they even say that. It's like, when was the time that you had like 5 cons each in a lineup? You know, they pay homeless guys $10 to come and stand there. And it's all a scam to, like, as you said, like, point. It's like, was it the guy we think it was?
Hey, the man twirling his mustache, perhaps? If you would.
Yeah. Which one of these men tied you to the rail tracks?
I mean, if you're going to do it in the lineup, if you're going to throw the mustache in the lineup, it's on you, man.
Yeah, you're asking for it at that point. Yes.
One thing I love about that scene, and there's a little another like little behind the scenes thing, is so that was supposed to be a real serious moment in the movie. Like they're lined up and they're like, "Give me the keys, cocksucker." Like, it's supposed to be real serious, and the actors were just being fucking idiots that day and goofing around and laughing at all the stuff. And apparently, Singer just came out and screamed at them. They were doing it for hours, and he just came out and screamed at them. He's like, "You," and then sent them all home and was like, "We're doing this again tomorrow. Come in ready." And then he and the producers and whoever went and watched the dailies and realized, oh, that's the perfect fuck you to the cops. Is them just laughing through the whole thing. So they kind of sideways found the perfect take, which was not at all what they were going for.
Yeah, like they were supposed to be. Because they were supposed to be unshakable. Yeah, it's so much better if they're like
collected.
No, so much better that they're laughing at each other, calling each other cocksuckers. I love that.
That's a great fun fact on this movie.
Sometimes you just like find your way to a thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, the biggest example, obviously, Jaws. Like, the shark won't work. Oh, that's much better. When we see the shark, it kind of ruins the whole thing.
It does. Yes. The absence of is much scarier.
Yeah, you don't have the shark in the lineup being like, which one of these ate your boy? If I can get each one of you to please step forward and go, Bana.
It's 4 dolphins and a shark. You're like,
that's him.
That's him, officer.
He's still got the inner tube hanging out of his mouth. Now I just want to put everything in a lineup.
That's great.
It's a great comedic device. I was gonna point out the Kobayashi thing. I was like, why did they hire the like famously the most British of all actors? Yeah. Like I don't have Pete Postlethwaite. Yeah. I was like I remember him from a bunch of like the hardcore British gangster movies, right? And like that's what I remember him from. I was like, why did they pick the most British guy and give him the most Japanese name possible? And why is he speaking in such a weird accent? And then you realize, oh, right, none of this is true. And you have to cross all the...
It's a clue that the whole story is complete bullshit.
Yeah,
but I didn't realize, like, it was only, I think he's doing an Indian accent, like, especially in that first scene. He's speaking with a clipped, kind of very, like, British Indian accent, and he's also, Pete Postlethwaite, as a lot of British people are, very pale man, and he's very tanned. Yeah. So I was only watching it this time that I was like, I think he's supposed to be Indian.
Well, I was unsure. I didn't even clock it.
Because I think you're right, because the story that he's telling is like, you hijacked this, and that was supposed to go to the nuclear facility in Pakistan.
Yeah, right.
And and he's like, this was also supposed to go to Pakistan. And you're like, oh, okay, so he's somehow involved in that. But then he's a nobody. He's like it's like whether that actually existed or not, whether or not any of these guys actually ever betrayed Keyser Soze
Did he ever kill his family? Probably not. He just saw a photo of a family and he was like, it'd be fun if I just whipped this into the story.
So do you think that's true?
No way. Because I think it's the perfect. It's accomplishing two things. It's furthering the myth, the legend of Keyser Soze. Like, I am so impossible to mess with that if you even try, I will go to such an extreme that you can't even fathom the lengths I'm willing to go to kill anyone who attacks me in any way. And then 2, it clearly establishes like, well, I'm a big, strong guy with long hair who's presumably Turkish in appearance, couldn't possibly be this little short white guy in your conference room, Agent Kulian. So like it's so clearly accomplishing Keyser Soze's goals. It can't be a real story.
Yeah, and I just feel like he's doing that thing where he just keeps throwing, like politicians do, where they just keep throwing things at you, and then you don't know what to catch anymore. You're like, there's just too much coming at me. Okay, not all of this could possibly be true. He's just overloading with information. So you don't know what to grab.
That's true. Oh, I should have mentioned in the recap that it turns out were no drugs on the ship, and it was a guy who knew who Keyser Soze was, and needed to be shot, and does so.
And he does get shot.
He does get shot. Everyone who knew who Keyser Soze was.
The cops talk about a lot of witnesses being gone, don't they? That's mentioned, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like anytime somebody sees this guy, it's just like, and then they just happen to die later.
Well, they say that in the context of Keaton.
Okay, yes.
Because Chaz Palminteri, Agent Kulian, is obsessed with Keaton, and so he gives this whole story. Which, by the way, talk about mixing in a little like "fu cop" moment in the middle of this story, talking about all these horrible things Keaton has done, all these witnesses he's murdered before he like disappeared and then came back. They mention when he came back, of course, we couldn't prosecute him for the murders we know he committed because we'd already pinned it on another guy. And it's like, wait, what'd you do? You sent an innocent man to prison?
Yeah,
just
all
for
in a
funsies?
day's work. Somebody's got to fill it.
I'm not leaving this case open. That's
hell yeah.
Which is as another defense of Keyser Soze, which is because the only person we know with absolute certainty that he killed is Keaton, who is a guy who, through the story, seems like a sympathetic, good guy or bad guy trying to go good. But if you believe the stories about him that Agent Kulian says, is a guy who has murdered at least a dozen people, including witnesses, not criminals. Like is a truly horrific person who murdered 8 people while he was a cop alone, let alone since then. So like, that's the only guy. So like, it's kind of like, do you get mad when John Wick kills a lot of bad guys? No. Should you get mad when Keyser Soze kills Keaton or this Argentinian drug dealer? Maybe not.
Maybe not.
But
no.
he was trying to turn his life around.
But it's interesting you bring that up because, like, that is the one detail that the cops do not buy about his story. Like, they're like, no, I know this guy. I've made it my career to know this guy. Keaton is an asshole. He doesn't care about you. And, like, it's spun as this, like, I'm a poor idiot. I thought he was my friend. And they're like, no, he was using you. But meanwhile, like that's the detail that doesn't jive with them, where it's like the way that you're portraying this guy that we know is not the guy that we know. And yeah, so it's like there's all kinds of hints throughout this thing that the entire story is made up. And that's one of them. They're like, no, Keaton's an asshole. They're like, no, but you don't know him like I do.
We spent 6 weeks together robbing drug dealers and diamond smugglers. So I can tell he's a good man at heart.
Good Lord. Just him being Kevin Spacey, just playing bad men.
Why is he so good? Why is he so good at it?
I don't know where he's drawing it from within. I don't know. It's so weird.
And why is this directed, this movie about bad men, directed so well? It's almost like people working on this movie had an insight.
It's like, I wonder why Louis C.K. had such great masturbation jokes all those years. It's a total mystery.
Where do you guys draw the line on that, just for yourselves? Like watching or consuming media made by people that you're like, you're like a bad person.
I think, and this is maybe totally wrong, but I think if they've actually been caught and are canceled, I feel almost better about it. Because it's like they're not succeeding and I'm not helping them continue to succeed. So the fact that Singer and Spacey have been thoroughly rejected by the industry, I feel a little bit better about it.
Okay, yeah.
Whereas like for years, like, Woody Allen was working very successfully, even though the stories were all out there.
Right.
And I was privileged because I just always hated his movies, so that was very easy to be like, nah, I don't want to see that.
That was an easy cut for me as well.
People were like, oh my God, you got to see, whatever. And I was like, no, I'm good. But like that sort of helps. Whereas if it's someone who's like still very much working successfully, which I'm sure we could all name people who
Oh, yeah.
who are still doing great, even though they probably shouldn't be. That for some reason makes a difference to me, but that also might just be me justifying a movie I really love and want to keep watching.
Oh no, I've watched movies with people that I fundamentally disagree with. Some of my favorite movies. I think the difference for me is if it's an individual thing, like I don't listen to Chris Brown's music.
Yeah.
Because it's just him. Whereas I'm still going to watch The Usual Suspects because there's a bunch of people in here. This is a production. There was a bunch of really cool, good, creative people working on this. And I don't think it should all be stripped down because, either one or two. But it can tip over. Like, I can't watch that 70s show anymore because I was like, oh, there's too many of you. Okay, it's just, there's not enough. The ratio doesn't go well anymore. I can't do it.
And I also think that kind of depends on the quality of the art. Like,
true.
I'm sorry, like I'll rewatch The Usual Suspects, but I'm not rewatching K-Pax. Like.
Okay, yeah, that's valid.
I'm like, that's so much. Point. Like and I wouldn't start watching like House of Cards, right?
Oh yeah.
But like, it's a tough one for sure.
Yeah, sometimes I'm just like, it's a little icky if they're too much of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm just envisioning a scenario where there is like one really unlucky key grip who keeps getting work on movies. Where like the star is like, all right, I worked on the Cosby Show. Fuck. Woody Allen film. Fuck. This Kevin Spacey, Bryan Singer film is my key to. Fuck.
I'm the Weinstein Company's in-house key grip. Damn it.
I watched a play in Edinburgh, and it was Woody Allen and Frank Sinatra on stage, and it was basically
She's
like
doing air quotes, by the way, which you can't see on the.
Okay, but Frank Sinatra on stage, and they were like doing basically like this. It was like a sympathizer play. It was insane to watch. It was so unbelievably bad, and they kept kind of blaming what's her name?
From Rosemary's Baby, right? That's their connection.
Oh shit, what's her name? I can't grab it right now. Anyway, point being is that it was the fucking craziest thing I've ever watched. I stepped outside, started obliterate. I was just like, what the fuck did we just watch? I was like, that's insane. Okay, him like normalizing what he did with his adoptive daughter. I was like, the whole thing was fucking crazy to watch. Apparently, the guy that wrote and directed it was standing right behind me the entire time.
Right.
And that's what I said. Yes, that's what I said. Somebody was like, oh, that's so embarrassing. They were right behind you. And I was like, well, somebody needed to tell them. And I'm fine if that's me. I'm fine if that's me. Because and the fact that I didn't say it to his face means he knows I really meant it.
Yeah.
I was like, I really meant it. I was just fucking on holsters on that.
Sometimes the things you need to hear are a very loud Canadian woman in Edinburgh.
Just going, what the fuck?
Yeah.
She talks so slow and articulately. There's no way we couldn't understand what she was saying. The criticism came through.
Yeah.
Anyways, that show's on Broadway next year.
Oh my God, go see it. I did laugh a lot though. I did. It was absolutely the most unhinged thing I've ever watched. I was just sitting there vibrating, holding myself. Anyway.
Do you remember the name of it?
No. I'm sure I could contact a few people. I could find it. I could find the name of it. Anyway, point being, hilarious. Absolutely the most unhinged fucking thing I've ever watched in my life. Anyway. Sorry, I really veered off there.
Can I bring up one thing that
I have a
bone to pick with in this movie? And again, I've established my love for it, which is that, so again, the one scene that we know happens that isn't verbal Kint's narration is that opening scene. And the opening scene of this movie is Gabriel Byrne has clearly been injured. We find out later he's been shot, and he's like sitting there, and he lights a cigarette, and then he lights all the matches, and he lights a stream of gasoline on fire, and we see the flame go all the way down, and clearly he's trying to blow up the boat. And then Keyser Soze from the second floor, whatever, the captain's part, pisses out the fire. You didn't notice that?
Oh, no.
That's how he puts out the
Yeah.
fire. Is he pisses out the fire? No fucking way. No way do you stop a gasoline fire with your piss.
With your stream.
Yeah.
With your stream of justice.
Yeah. Like, I don't care what racehorse
Especially
you
not
are.
especially not from the second floor.
No.
Like, the spread on that is unreal.
Oh, no.
On a cold winter night,
I'm
you kidding
sorry,
me?
most men can't hit the bowl. Okay? Are you insane? There's no way from the set. No. Not from a height and
no.
not that. Okay, absolutely. You are correct.
Yeah,
okay,
that's the
that
most
is-
unrealistic part of this movie.
That is a good bone to pick. Absolutely.
That's how you know he's lying, because the gas dynamics just don't work.
You guys are on the gas. I
the
like
gas-
that.
the
You're
gas
like,
just
"Listen,
doesn't make
you get
sense."
it on your shoes, you're done.
You're done. They're like, I'm sorry.
done.
It's you're not gonna piss. You couldn't even piss it out on your shoes.
Minimum, you smell like gasoline all day.
At the minimum.
Minimum.
Yeah, it's gasoline is not this miracle. Just burns whatever.
No.
Yeah.
Gasoline. It's gasoline and cat shit. You can't get it off you. You can't get it off you. It's on you.
Especially if it's cat shit in gasoline.
Yeah, I'll
That's
tell
really
you.
bad.
A combination of the two?
That's a fucking recipe for napalm. So
Yeah, hey.
that's just so gonna fucking stick.
You'll never
This
get
is-
rid of it.
This is very inside baseball. Our cat is
Yeah.
shitting all over the
Sorry,
house.
I couldn't help myself.
This should be a villain of the week, but it's not. I spent the morning chasing the cat around with a Swiffer, scrubbing skid marks off.
Oh, poor cat.
He's gonna be better, but it's not his. It hasn't been his couple days, and it hasn't been ours either.
Yeah. When it's not his couple of days, it's definitely not your couple of days.
No.
Yeah,
feel that.
cats and children are the very same. Right?
Yeah.
Their problems
Like-
become your problems real quick.
Like there is a
Yeah.
thing where you're like, I guess this is just a spot clean, and then you're like, after a while, you're like, we're just gonna have to clean the whole floor at this point, you know? Like,
If anything, we're burning down this house. We
Yeah.
don't know where this shit is anymore. It could be anywhere. This cat's been leaking. Okay.
the second he goes for carpet or furniture, you're like, ah!
oh yeah, no, we've already washed the cushion. Like it's been a bad. Anyway.
Hey,
Oh, man.
I've got one of those green machines if you need one.
We might anyway.
Yeah. You know,
Thankfully,
I'm
the
just-
covers come off and they're machine washable. So
I'm
we're
a
okay.
block down. That's all I'm saying.
It's also a very old couch that we
I've got
don't give
I've got
shit
a
about.
professional steamer. Anyway, there's a lot of things
Yeah.
I got. You know I got it. I'm a little bit of a clean lady.
Yeah, the other. I can't believe we got into the cat shit.
Sorry.
Anyway,
I'm sorry.
no, that's fine. The other detail I found, this is fascinating because again, this is a movie that's like so rich in details, which is like Keyser Soze. Like the word Soze is apparently like from a Turkish saying, which is I'm gonna mangle this pronunciation, but it's like Soze Bogmak. And which is like an expression that means to talk unnecessarily, and so much as to cause confusion. And it's like
that's
so
right.
so translated literally, it means drowned in words. And I was just like, oh, that's another just like. Whoever wrote this was on was that
It's
Singer?
No, it's
What else has been canceled?
No, it's the guy who now is like Tom Cruise's like partner on all the Mission Impossibles. He's directed
okay.
the last like 3 or 4 of them. Yeah,
Okay, that's fine. That's
yeah,
good.
he's fine as far as I know.
Yeah.
That's good.
No,
He's
he really
just
had the
inventing new ways to
energy.
kill Tom Cruise.
And we
all
love him
trying.
for him.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
love him for it. Okay, absolutely.
James Cameron wants to drown. Tom Cruise
Yeah.
wants to die in a plane crash. It's gonna. If those
Let
two ever
them.
work together, it's gonna
Let
be.
them. Let
That'll
them
be the
do it.
greatest catastrophe in Hollywood history, and not like box office wise. I mean, like people will die.
No, statistically it'll make a lot of money.
Yes, it will. Hell yeah. Let's
that'll
make
be
this
the
happen.
that'll be the RRR of North America.
Oh, yeah. So good. That was actually really good. This guy, I'm like, I don't know how nobody in this movie can pick up that he's lying the entire time. Because you ever talk to those people where I'm like, how do you have something to say about everything I've said?
Yeah.
Okay, sometimes there's 1 or 2 people in my life where I am just like, to this day, I don't know if you're lying, but I just feel like you are. Because it feels like anytime I ask you a single question about anything, all of a sudden you have no answers. It's
Oh,
do you know what I
I see what
mean?
you're
I can one up your story, but I don't want to.
I used to it's like I'll say something about horses. They're like, yeah, I actually used to horseback ride. I did that for 5 years when I was like from like 12 to 17. I won a bunch of ribbons, and I was like, oh, where would you do that? Oh, like that was
You wouldn't have heard of it.
You wouldn't have heard of it. I'm like, what the fuck is happening?
My horse was in Canada.
Yeah. My horse was as big as an orc.
Could you lift your coffee cup up so I can tell you the name of my horse?
Yes.
My horse was Kobayashi porcelain.
Totally. Yeah.
And he actually says at one point, he says to the cops, he says, cops only look at the answer that's staring them right in the face. You always go for the simplest answer. You never want to believe in any kind of like bigger thing. Which he might as well be pointing aside at himself, being like, it's me. I'm fucking with you.
And you know what? I have no problem with somebody wasting police time.
Yeah. Well, clearly they're not doing this ethically. Like the other thing is, we do know that this is true. He starts and he gives his testimony to, I believe, federal prosecutors anyway. And then there's this other cop, Treasury or whatever it is, who's like, I just need to talk to him. And I was like, first of all, there is absolutely no way that is legal. Like, you can't keep interrogating a guy from a different department after he's already signed a deal and given his testimony. Am I incorrect?
No, I mean, you certainly can't do it. I think they imply that Verbal is doing this by consent, that it's like, just come in for a quick chat if that's okay. But like if that's okay is very much like, that's okay. Like just like making it clear, like you have to, but actually technically you don't. Like that's, I think, the kind of gray line they're skirting there, where it's like, technically we didn't force him to talk to us. We just gave him the opportunity and strongly implied he had to, I think what the cops are pulling there.
Okay, gotcha. But like something a good lawyer would get you out of immediate.
Oh, yeah. Like the U.S. is problematic in many ways, but they have this term of evidence that we don't have in Canada, which is like fruit of the poison tree, which is like the second you do something wrong and you poison the tree, all the fruit, the evidence that you gather from it is completely banned from court.
Right. Like if you didn't have a search warrant, anything that you found during the search warrant.
Yeah, or anything that you found as a result of something you found as a result of the search warrant. Yeah.
So however far down it goes.
Yeah, it's all tainted. Whereas in Canada, we're like, well, that second one's fine.
It's like
just because you found the thing that led to the locker and then you got a warrant for the locker's fine. But like you should.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what we're at.
So let me ask you this. So let's say they didn't get a warrant. And they go in and they discover a dead body. Someone's been murdered. You can't just be like, guess someone didn't get murdered. Like, like that would be.
Well, the discovery of a dead body, like usually when you're talking about a warrant, like you're saying like a body was in a house, like John Wayne Gacy style, like he's keeping all the bodies in the house kind of thing.
And the police just like walk in and discover it.
Well, like the existence of a murder, because they would already know that people had disappeared and whatever, like they could certainly know that a murder has taken place, but the evidence that the murdered body was in John Wayne Gacy's house in this example, like, yeah, you can't, if you didn't have a warrant and you just break into the house, you couldn't use the proof that it was in the house in the trial.
Oh.
Yeah.
Hot damn.
So you'd be like, someone got murdered, and here is their body,
and we think it's this guy.
But you couldn't be like, and we found the body in the house.
Again, if you did it illegally, if you broke into the house illegally,
shit.
If you get the warrant or you get the evidence some other way, like someone went into the house and got out and was like, hey, there's a bunch of bodies in there. Like, yeah, totally, you can do that.
And Luke is a lawyer, by the way, so this definitely counts as legal advice.
Oh, good. The first thing they teach you in law school is never give legal advice. And then they do the gorilla video, and I fucked up on
Never give legal advice.
Like if you're not being paid to do it, it's not part of the contract. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's very funny.
These are just John Wayne Gacy house hypotheticals.
Yeah. No, but the reason I brought him up is because I'm pretty sure he's the one who that was exactly the case.
Oh, was it?
They just went in on some like completely unknown thing. Like, don't get me wrong, they did it legally, and they just found like they went in thinking there might be like one person there, and they found dozens.
Yeah, okay.
Because they was just keeping them like under the floorboards.
It's like the sort of how what's his face got nagged for tax evasion rather than
Capone.
Capone, yeah. Rather than all the other crimes.
All the other shit. Yeah.
Oh fuck. Anyway, someone was talking about getting away with like tax fraud, and they're like, "That's how they got Capone. You're not gonna get." You're not going to get away with tax fraud.
Yeah.
It's the one thing they're really good at.
Yeah, you never get away with tax fraud. Tax evasion, pretty easy.
Yeah.
Ask any billionaire.
Yeah.
Factual.
Yeah. Anyway,
Not
this
fraud
is,
if an accountant does it.
that's legal advice by Lou. It's not fraud if an accountant does it.
That's my hurt in a car. Call William Attar. He didn't even give a phone number to call. He just gave advice and then went off the air.
So PSA, if anything.
You got some dancers, really working the song. Yeah. Anyways, well, I'm gonna lose my license.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any final points you would like to make to wrap it up?
I will just add one last point in defense of Soze, which is at one point in when we're in the police scene with Verbal and Agent Coulion, he says Keyser Soze is a boogeyman, which we've talked about, and like he's essentially like a ghost story that people use to enforce order in the criminal underworld. Like if you rat on me, if you do this, if you do that, Keyser Soze is going to get you. That's useful. Like you're in a situation which is inherently chaotic, and you have a force that is bringing order to a situation that is chaotic and violent. And order in that situation can often reduce the amount of violence. So, though he does murder many people, probably, I mean, at least one that we know about, you could argue in the scales of justice kind of thing that perhaps the existence of Keyser Soze has prevented more murders than Keyser Soze himself has caused.
All right. I love that.
Yeah,
That's great.
If we do it my way, nobody gets killed.
Yeah. You know, the goodies.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't want to say anything beyond that. That was perfect. I think that's great.
I think last time I was on your show, I was defending Leslie Mann for being like a bit annoying in Big Daddy. And
Yes.
now I'm fully doing a murder. I'm like, okay, this is tougher. This is tougher.
We don't know.
We don't know.
No, nothing he said is true.
And I think it's time to rank that villain. So,
absolutely.
I've got the twist scale. So from a twist high all the way up to Twist and Shout, the song. I am going to give our villain a twister. Very destructive, very bad. Very destructive, very bad. What do you got, Luke?
I'm going to go with the Baldwin brothers scale.
Hey,
because
I love it.
as I think we
love
mentioned,
it.
Stephen Baldwin plays one of the main guys in this, and this is his maybe one good movie. So on the ranking of Baldwin's, again, ranking Keyser Soze's evilness, I'm going to say from Billy to Alec, he falls right in at Stephen, which is that he's probably pretty bad, and there's probably a lot of stuff we haven't heard about, but technically hasn't done anything that bad.
Technically. He's the best guy. I love it. So I've got the My Usual Suspect scale. So on a scale of not drinking enough water to not getting enough sleep, I'm going to write Verbal Kint / Keyser Soze a too much to drink. God only knows what actually happened.
Yes, I love it, Craig.
Those are my usual suspects.
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
And before we get to our heroes and villains of the week team, of course, there's a couple ways you can help out the podcast. We are on Patreon, patreon.com/thevillainwasright, where you can get bonuses. If you sign up for our top tier, you get 2 bonus episodes a month. Craig picks a good movie. I pick a bad movie. I would say they're equally as fun. And you can also get in on audience choice episodes. Yeah, have your vote count. Have it count. Let us know. And also, you get early release episodes. And if you'd like to get in touch with us,
You can get in touch with us. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Villain Was Right. And if you want to give us a suggestion, maybe for a movie or some legal advice that we got totally wrong on this, like actually in Canada, give us legal advice at Villain Was Right. Not at Villain Was Right, but email us at villainwasright@gmail.com. And thank you so much for everyone for listening and sharing and being big fans. We love you. And now it is time for our heroes and villains of the week. What do you got, Rebecca?
I have a hero. When we were in Halifax, Craig and I received a free pizza from an unknown listener that heard us from the we were at this pub in Halifax. We're finishing up our meal, and our server comes up to us, and she goes, "Hey, weird question. Do you guys have a podcast?" And we were like, "We sure do." And she goes, "Oh, well," and because I guess we were talking so loud,
Very loudly.
so loudly.
I don't believe it.
Beer screaming at each other. You know what I mean? We're just too many beers deep at this point in the evening. Heard our voices from the kitchen, sent out and said, apparently they were too shy to come meet us, but wanted us to have a free pizza. And I was like, what a lovely time. That was just, it really touched my heart. I was like, and for some reason, that seems to be the thing that I receive the most is pizza. Every time I get recognized, it's always pizza, and I would just like to keep this going. Keep that pizza train rolling, everybody.
Well, I mean,
it's the greatest gift you could give.
I mean, I think pizza is second only to cash in like international currency.
In cash would have been weird.
Yeah.
People like cash. People like pizza almost as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you got free pizza without
Free
social interaction.
pizzas.
That's the dream.
My God. Anyway, so if you are listening, which I think you might be, thank you so much for
thank
that
you.
free pizza.
Yeah, and good luck on your kitchen job.
Yeah, hell yeah. The food was great.
Yes, thank
It was
you.
delicious. Luke, what do you got for us?
I have a villain. It's a slightly long story, but so Air Transat. So we are, which for
great.
those who are not Canadian, it's a Canadian airline. If you're wondering what they are, they make Air Canada look good. So basically, we're going on vacation in a couple days. My parents were supposed to come with us. I have a wife and kids. My parents were supposed to come as well. We're all just doing a resort thing for a week. It's going to be great.
Nice.
And then my mom herniated a disc in her back. Really, really sucks. She's like obviously unable to go. She's like in a hospital now. And so call up Air Transat. Hey, any chance of any kind of like money back? No, you didn't get travel insurance. Fuck you. Okay. Hey, could we pay a fee and like substitute someone in, like one of my parents' friends or whatever? No, you didn't get it. Travel insurance. Fuck you. Okay. So then my dad, because my parents booked with like a travel visa, they can get a little bit of money back. And so my dad called Air Transat and they were like, well, you know, and he was like, I guess I'll still go because I don't have a medical issue, but my wife can't. And they kept him on the phone for 4 hours just to get proof of cancellation, just so we could submit it to Visa, not Air Transat. They're not doing anything. And then they tried to charge him $500 because now he's flying solo and he gets like a room to himself. So fuck you, Air Transat.
What the
You guys
fuck?
suck. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I think after 4 hours, I think some supervisor maybe canceled the $500 charge or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, they fucking suck. And then if I could quickly just tag a little hero, thank you to all the nurses. Nurses are always the best. They are, sorry we keep electing governments that are absolutely shitty to you.
Yeah.
But thank you to every nurse at the hospital who's been so good with my
Yeah.
mom because they're the fucking best.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fuck.
yeah. One of the groups of people we cannot pay enough for sure.
And we aggressively do the opposite.
Yes, why?
So I also have a villain this week, and it is also a company because this is a bit of an update on one villain I had previously, which is I recently discovered that we are renting our water heater, which is
texted about
I've texted you about it, which is, by the way, Ontario, Canada is one of the only places where this is a thing, and it is. Let me tell you,
It should be illegal.
An absolute fucking scam.
Yeah.
So just to recap, what happened? They got like sued or something, and they had to break it apart from the actual gas bill. So it used to be that like you just get one bill, and like it was one line item being like, by the way, you're renting your water heater.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
nobody fucking knew about it,
Okay,
right?
yeah.
And so they broke it apart, and they were like trying to get at me for being like, you should please send us your direct banking information. And they're like, oh, but also we've hired this billing company to deal with it. I was like, okay, there's a billing company. And the billing company, the company responsible for billing was like, yeah, you can send an e-transfer to our @yahoo.com email address.
Shut up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not Yahoo.
So I was like, oh, this is in the 2025,
Yeah.
the year of our Lord. You're
Want to
using.
send it over to our Hotmail or AOL account? What
Just
the
give me
fuck?
your social insurance number at Hotmail. And
Yeah,
we'll,
exactly.
Yeah, we'll fix that.
So I'm like, well,
Work
this
that
is a
out.
scam. Like, I wouldn't trust someone who works at Yahoo sending me an email from an Yahoo email address. You know what I mean?
totally.
Why aren't you using Gmail? Anyway, that's just to recap what I've already told on the podcast a couple weeks ago. So I, of course, ignore this letter. And finally, they're like, they keep sending me, they send me the bill again. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is legit and not just some scam. And I was like, but I don't want this. I don't want this. So I was like, I emailed them. I tried to call, can't get through. I emailed them and I was like, listen, I don't want to pay this anymore. How do I get out of this contract? And they're like, you can't. And I was like, what do you mean I can't? And they're like, you're required to keep paying this until we deem that the water heater is unrepairable.
Well,
right?
that just doesn't seem legal.
That doesn't seem. So this
That's
is $35 a month, by the way.
Okay.
$35 a month. And I was like, what do you mean? And I was like, okay, if I were to have this water heater removed and taken back to you, what is the process for that? And they're like, you can't do that until 2031.
2031?
2031.
Buddy, I don't even know if I'm making it to 2031.
Right?
What are you talking about?
And I was like, okay, how do I cancel the contract right now if I want to have this uninstalled and sent back? They're like, well, you would owe us like $2,700 to end your contract early. And I was like, but
one you didn't sign.
One I did not sign. This
was
is
the
what
previous
contract?
owner, right?
This is a 10-year-old hot water heater at this
Yeah.
point. A new hot water heater costs it's $1,700, and a new hot water heater costs like $2,000 to own.
Yeah.
So it's like, so I would pay them $1,700 to own a 10-year-old hot water tank that I can't have removed from my house until 2031. And I was like, how is this possible?
No.
I never signed this agreement with them.
Yeah.
I checked my purchase agreement for the house. There's nothing in there about me taking over this contract. How am I required to pay $35 a month until 2031 for a contract I did not sign for something I don't own? By the way, at the end of this, I don't own it. Like, if it was a rent-to-own situation, that would be somewhat different, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, you're doing monthly payments to own this. But it's like, at the end of this contract, I don't even own it. I've just got an old fucking water heater.
None of that
I've
seems right.
Oh, it is making me livid. So I'm just like, well, I don't know. You don't have my banking information. What if I just don't pay you?
That's what I would do.
Do you come and get it? Well, then let's do that option.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
Get it out. Go. It's like, I'm not going to pay $1,800 for a 10-year-old hot water heater when I can get a new one for the same amount. I didn't sign up for this. I didn't do it.
So 1,000,000% I'd just stop paying them. You've stopped paying them, right?
I haven't paid them. Yeah.
You haven't paid them yet.
I haven't paid them yet.
Since it came off your gas bill.
Since it came off my gas bill. Yeah.
Good. Those people can kick rocks.
Right? And it's just like,
Absolutely.
anyway, my next step is to be like, can you provide me with this agreement?
Yeah, I'd love to see the contract.
I'd love to see the contract I signed.
Are we naming the company or are we not?
Oh,
it's fine if we're not. I'm just saying.
I can't. It's some home services, but it's
got to be Enercare, right?
I don't want to say that
Okay,
because
sorry.
it's like there's like two different names that they're going by, and it's like one of those ones. It's fucking nuts. Anyway,
Okay.
I'm not opposed to naming them. It's just I can't think of it right now.
Got it.
But anyway, yeah, they're absolute fucking criminals.
That sounds crazy.
Keyser Soze level criminals.
No, they put their gun on someone not in the game. You're not in the game.
I'm not in the game, Luke. I'm not in the game. This is the parking pad all over again.
That's a deep cut.
That's an inside joke. For
Also,
sure.
as I'm talking about this, I realized that at one point they do strongly suggest that Keyser Soze murdered Keaton's lawyer girlfriend, who was not in the game. So all my arguments are moot.
That's That's so funny.
That's always how we love to end this after this podcast.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, anyway.
Oh, by the way, we were wrong about everything. Anyway, well, team, if you want to follow me, you can follow me at Rebecca Reads on any platform of your choosing. Luke, where do you want people to check you out?
Yeah, you can follow the Beaverton. Don't bother following me. Follow the Beaverton on the social media of your choosing if you like news about jokes about the news. And as Craig mentioned off top, we have a podcast that was something we did a long time ago, and we're having a lot of fun, but we let it lapse for reasons, and now we're bringing it back. Vague, mysterious reasons. No, just there was a pandemic. But we're bringing it back, and we're having a lot of fun with it. New episodes drop every Wednesday. It's a satirical panel show where me and some hilarious comedians get together and make fun of the news, riff on the events of the week. So if you like current events jokes, feel free to check it out wherever you get your podcasts.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and you can follow me at Craig Fay Comedy on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, as well as craigfay.com for show dates.
And that does it for us here this week. You can check us out next week. We are doing, this is audience choice. Okay, it was our audience's choice. We are doing the OG Spider-Man, the 2002. And this is The Villain Was Right, reminding you that the devil is in the details.
The Villain Was Right was produced by Andrew Ivimey for the From Superheroes Network. For more great podcasts like this, as well as YouTube series, webcomics, and so much more, visit FromSuperheroes.com.